Chapter 7:15. On that day, other than Ning Luo's family, half of the members of the Rado tribe were willing to abandon their family and friends to enter the city. They would never know the people behind them again. Luo Luo, I will never abandon you. Vigo held Ning Luo's hand. His affectionate words touched Ning Luo. Vigo, I will never abandon you. I will never abandon all of you. Gain, Imo, Mingjiu, and He Lang also expressed their stance. They would never abandon any of their members. In the end, Mingjiu expressed that he wanted to fly into the sky and see what was in the city. Ning Luo and the others agreed. The next day, the members of the Rado tribe entered the city early in the morning again. One of them even spat at Ning Luo when he passed by her. We finally got rid of you. Ning Luo's face turned pale. She didn't understand why the other party would treat her like this. If it wasn't for her, would the Rado tribe have been able to live comfortably in the forest for more than 10 years? Wasn't she the one who brought all the new things to the Rado tribe? Every member who entered the city looked at Ning Luo with disgust. This made Ning Luo feel helpless. She didn't do anything, so why did they treat her like this? What did she do wrong? Let me tell you. You think you didn't do anything wrong, right? You think you brought countless benefits to the Rado tribe and contributed the most, right? Ning Luo looked at the old beast man in front of her. She didn't understand. Wasn't that the case? She had helped them many times. The old beast man looked at the tall city wall in front of him and smiled. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have to hide in the forest and live for more than 10 years. It's fine that we came to live in the forest. After all, we are used to living in the forest. But Ning Luo, have you forgotten? All the good things in the forest are given to you by your powerful partners without any hesitation. No matter what it is, you have to choose first before we can give it to you. When the beast tide comes, they are the strongest warriors, but they always care about you and your children first. Once there is a conflict between the children of the tribe, no matter who is right or wrong, it is always the children of the other tribe members who are wrong. If your children make a mistake, you will always apologize for them and compensate us with some food. Have you forgotten that year when little Huzi pushed Ai's child into the river and drowned in the end? You only compensated Aie with animal skin and food. If she didn't accept it, then she was making things difficult for you, saying that she was arguing with a little brat. But you forget that she lost her child. Ning Luo, weren't you also furious about what she did in the end? Didn't you use that sharp knife of yours to chop her corpse into meat paste? Ning Luo, when these things didn't happen to you, of course you didn't care. You thought that you could just give them some compensation, something you could easily get, something you didn't care about, and that would appease them. Once something happens to you, you are more ruthless than anyone else. Ning Luo was at a loss for words. He didn't know what to say and could only bury his head and cry. The old orc looked regretful. If we had stood up to stop you when you wanted to hand over a Guogua, and let the Modagua warriors take you away, that would have been better. That way, Ning Luo wouldn't be able to harm the Lado tribe, and he might even be able to destroy the country of Mada. Chapter 7:16. After the old orc finished speaking, he walked towards the city gate with a numb face. He wanted to abandon everything here. He wanted to leave this forest that had brought him endless sorrow. He wanted to leave Ning Luo, her mate, and her annoying children. Tanguo listened to the old orc's words and couldn't help but smile. You still don't understand. Guogua. Yi Niao was powerful and intelligent. He also heard the old orc's words and held her in his arms. Don't mind them. I've never cared about them, Tanguo smiled. Don't you know what I care about, Yao? She found that Yi Niao's ears were red. She burst into laughter in his arms. Pfft, She laughed. They deserve it. They don't think about what they did wrong and always like to push the blame to others. Weren't the people who proposed to hand a guagua over originally members of the Lado tribe? Olga sneered. If they really realized it, they would understand that it was their own fault. Ning Luo was at fault, but the bigger fault lies with them. Tang Guo looked at Olga, who was not very calm, and shouted, "That's enough, Olga. I've never seen you so agitated before. Isn't that too infuriating? Just thinking about it makes me angry." Olga looked down at the members of the Lado tribe who entered the city one after another. I really want to go down and ask them if today is like when they wanted a guagua to leave. But today, they abandoned each other. I have to say, Guagua, this move of yours is really satisfying. Finally, her eyes fell on Gain and Ning Luo. She snorted. I also want to see how long Gain and Ning Luo can last without abandoning each other. Tanggua supported her chin. Well, let's continue watching. Let's see if their relationship is really indestructible or easily broken. Guagua, what would you do if you and Yin Yao encountered such a situation? Olga suddenly asked. Tanguo raised her eyebrows. No, Yao and I wouldn't encounter such a situation. Why don't you ask this question instead? If it was Ning Luo who went to Mata, would there be Mata today? We can't compare. I can change my own fate and the fate of the entire orc world. I won't end up like that. Olga looked at Tanggua, who was in high spirits and was stunned. She lowered her head and smiled. She muttered, yes, there is no comparison. No one can compare to a guagua. No matter where you are different. Not only can you change your own fate, but also the fate of others. Host, did you know that Olga's soul waves? Yes, answered Tanggua. Oh, I thought you didn't notice. She was so obvious. How could I not have noticed? The thickness of her soul is obviously different. I just didn't expect her to be reborn. Or perhaps it should be called the awakening of her previous life's memories. Many of her personalities are similar to this life, except that she is a little manic. Host, you don't have much time left in this world. Chapter 717. Yes, it's been 20 years this time. I didn't receive a reminder from your lifeline before, and it's been more than 10 years. When I went to check, I found that it's been 20 years. Interesting. Tanggua was getting more and more curious about why she transmigrated to these worlds. In the blink of an eye, 10 days passed. Only Ning Luo's family was left outside the city. Ning Luo and her spouses were still persevering. Ming Jiu flew up every day to observe the situation in the city. He didn't dare to fly above the city and could only watch from afar. He could still see the bustling city and houses that he had never seen before. The beast men were all wearing beautiful clothes and jewelry necklaces that they had never seen before. They were much prettier than the animal bone necklaces. Ning Luo's family could also smell the fragrance of food coming from the city from time to time. Her children were drooling as they looked inside and swallowed their saliva. Ming Jiu told them what he had observed. It could be seen that everyone was in disbelief. How could the outside world have changed so much in just a dozen years? Ning Luo's children were envious. Her spouses were also looking at each other. They couldn't understand how Matagua had become so powerful. Mother, the smell inside is so good. It's even better than your meat soup. I want to eat it. I want to eat it too. It smells so good. Mother, can we go in and eat before coming out? Ning Luo's face turned pale. She looked at her children's longing eyes and her heart ached. The smell was really good, wasn't it? So it was normal for her children to want to eat. She couldn't blame her children. She had brought them through so much hardship. Mother, didn't the guards say that we have 2 chances? Can't we go in once and come out again? That way, we still have 1 more chance to go in. We can go in and eat twice. Yes, yes. Big brother, you're so smart. This is a good idea. Ning Luo pursed her lips and didn't agree. Ming Jiu described the environment in the city too well. It was as if it was a human world. This made her panic. 2 chances. She was afraid that if she went in and came out the first time, she wouldn't want to come out the second time. If the children like it so much, why don't we let them go in first and come out later? Gain said. Ning Luo shook his head. No, no one is allowed to enter. You are not allowed to enter. I will never forgive anyone who dares to enter. Seeing this, Olga couldn't help but smile. She's afraid. Who in Ning Luo's position wouldn't be afraid? Gain, let's go back to the forest. Our family will live in the forest forever. Ganen and the others couldn't bear to see Ning Luo angry. They hurriedly coaxed her and said that they would take her back to the forest and never come out again. The children were also afraid that Ning Luo would be angry, so they turned around and left. Ming Jiu also turned his head to look at the tall city walls. Thinking back to what he had seen in the city, his eyes were filled with envy. The inside of the city was really something to look forward to. However, he couldn't abandon Luo Luo just because he yearned for life in the city. Are they leaving just like that? Olga asked, puzzled. She was unwilling to give up. But 2 days later, Ollie laughed. It turned out that the members of the Rado tribe who had entered the city wanted to leave the city 1 more time. The guard said that they had 2 chances to leave the city and return, and they would never leave again. Chapter 7:18. How interesting. These are the members of the Lado tribe. Olga laughed out loud. She looked at the clothes they were wearing and beautiful accessories. They were even carrying all sorts of food. She wondered how they got their hands on them as they walked towards the forest. Before long, their hands were empty. They returned to the city with satisfied smiles on their faces. A few days later, Ning Luo's children appeared. They sneaked into the city while it was still early. After the children entered the city, they were dazzled by everything in the city. In the end, they sold their animal bone necklaces and some rare meat jerky. They finally had delicious food. The little girls also bought beautiful accessories and left reluctantly. 2 days later, they came again. This time, they spent a day in the city. In the end, everyone decided not to go out. This place was too beautiful. They could eat a lot of delicious food and wear many beautiful clothes. They had forgotten about their parents in the forest. If they went out this time, they would never be able to come back again. Olga laughed until tears came out of her eyes. I didn't expect that the first to betray her would be her own child. Interesting, very interesting. Tangua didn't say anything. This was all within her expectations. Most people couldn't resist temptation. No matter how strong a relationship was, it would be unassailable after the test of some special circumstances. When she was in a relationship, she liked both parties to be on equal footing. At least she had the ability to protect this relationship and maintain the purity of this relationship. Purity wasn't static. It required effort, sincerity, material and other external conditions to maintain it. Needless to say, Ning Luo must be very sad right now. He would also ask people to look for his children. As expected, in less than 2 days, it was Aimo and Hei Lang who appeared outside the city. Tangua and the others had been observing their behavior in the city. They first exchanged for money before going to look for their children. Of course, they couldn't bring them back. In the end, they went to buy food. They didn't forget to bring some for Ning Luo. They also bought beautiful jewelry and beautiful dresses for Ning Luo. They couldn't bear to go back. Where are the children? Ning Luo looked at Aimo and Hei Lang. I asked you to look for the children, and you came back with food and clothes. Ning Luo was so anxious that she cried. The men quickly coaxed her. Although Ning Luo complained, after being coaxed by the men, she looked at the beautiful dresses and smiled happily. In front of them, she once again wore the exquisite clothes of humans. She looked at the reflection in the water and the face that was no longer young. She was stunned. She suddenly remembered that she was no longer the 18-year-old girl who took the college entrance exam. She had lived in the orc world for more than 10 years and was now in her 30s. Even though she had 5 loving spouses, her youth was slipping away. When she put on the beautiful clothes, she found that the belt was not good. Even if she held her breath, she could not make her waist slimmer. She remembered that she had given birth to more than 10 children. Her stomach had terrible stretch marks, like a layer of old tree bark. She was not a beast man, but a human. She had given birth to more than 10 children, and her body had long been damaged. The conditions in the forest were so harsh that it was impossible for her to maintain her body. Even though her hands were fair and slender, and her feet were beautiful, once she took off her clothes, one would see that her body was covered with the traces of time. Chapter 720. Later, they went to Mata's ceremony and saw a few familiar faces. The most respected sage of Mata and the grand tutor sat together in an ancient and luxurious carriage. They sat hand in hand. Every time they looked at each other, they could feel the deep affection between them. Ning Luo was stunned. Hei Lang and the others also stared blankly at the carriage. Lady Guogua is really the smartest sage. Yes, it's all thanks to Lady Guogua that Mata was able to unify the orc world. The Grand Tutor is also very powerful. He brought back so many good things for us. I also heard that Lady Guogua was captured by King Larry. She was smart enough to choose to cooperate with the kind and friendly King Siri. That's how Mata became what it is today. Thank you, King Siri, for bringing Lady Guogua to us. I wish them a long life and good health every day. Hearing the legend of Tangua, Ning Luo's face turned pale. He leaned to the side, unable to exert any strength. Hei Lang also looked at the carriage in shock. His eyes were sour and he had an indescribable feeling in his heart. Was it regret? Perhaps it was. He once said that Ning Luo was more important to the tribe and to him. Who would have thought that Guogua could change the entire orc world? It was obvious who was more important. Even Ning Luo, who was very important to him, was abandoned without hesitation. Did he like Ning Luo? Yes, he did. But as time passed, this affection faded and disappeared. The members of the Lado tribe also saw Guogua. Their reactions were similar to Ning Luo's. They regretted that they didn't stop Guogua from being taken away. By the time they saw Olga and her spouse and knew who they were, their regret and annoyance had reached its peak. In the days that followed, the members of the Lado tribe couldn't help but mock Ning Luo whenever they saw her. Hei Lang and the others didn't seem to notice. When Ning Luo was bullied by the members of the Lado tribe in the corner, she recalled the past and regretted not letting Vigo go with her. If Vigo was here, he would definitely protect her. She wanted to go back to Vigo, but she couldn't give up the prosperity here. She had no chance to enter the city again. She hoped so much that Vigo would come to find her. But she waited and waited, and Vigo still didn't come. Tangua's life was coming to an end. Yi Niao had already sensed it. Guogua, you don't need to comfort me. You're leaving soon. I'm going to lose you. No matter what you say, it won't be able to comfort me. Guogua, I'm very sad. You're so smart, and you're receiving the blessings of all the orcs in Mata. Why don't you stay with me longer? Yinyao hugged Tanghua and kissed her forehead sincerely. Then I won't say anything to comfort you. I look forward to seeing you in the next life. Yinyao smiled. My Agua really knows how to coax people. He hugged her. All right, see you in the next life then. Olga came to Tangwa's side and held her hand. She stared at her and said, Agwagwa, you too, right? She also had memories of her past life, right? Sort of. Tangwa's eyes crinkled as she smiled. Olga hugged her and whispered in her ear, I was too willful in the past. I'm sorry. It's okay. Tangwa's life had come to an end. But for millions of years to come, she would live forever in the hearts of the people of Mata. There were statues of Agwagwa the Wise everywhere. There were countless people who worshipped her. Beside her statue was Yinyao, the grand tutor who died for love. Their wisdom made them admire them. Their love was so pure that they yearned for it. Tanguo woke up this time. She was sitting in front of the computer table. She looked around. This was a small cubicle made with beautiful curtains. Around the computer table, there was a microphone, a sound system and a series of live broadcast equipment. There was even a gaming cabin at the side. Gaming. Live broadcast. These words popped up in her mind. Then, her phone rang. Chapter 721. Tanguo looked at the caller ID and saw the words, phone you. She picked it up and the voice came from the other side of the phone, Xiaoguo, I saw that you went offline. Where do you want to go for dinner tonight? I'll listen to you. Tanguo hadn't received the memory yet, so she answered instinctively. Feng Yu didn't doubt her and laughed, let's go to the same old place. I'll come and pick you up. Yes, you can come in an hour. I know. You need to remove your makeup and put on a perfect makeup for a date with your boyfriend. I'll wait for you. After hanging up the phone, Tanguo raised her eyebrows and glanced at the interface of the phone. Boyfriend. She didn't know if it was a good or bad boyfriend. The legs of the system trembled. Host, do you want to receive the memory? Yes, go to the bathroom to receive it. Soaking in the bathtub, Tanguo began to receive the plot of this world. The original owner was a rich second generation who owned a mine. She didn't have any siblings and only had a pair of parents who loved her. Her life could be said to be carefree. After graduating from university, she entered the live broadcasting industry. At first, she did Yen E. Later, she felt that it was boring and began to be a game streamer. The games she played were all popular games in recent years. Inadvertently, she found some horror games with interesting plots. Since then, she became the only female horror game streamer on the live broadcasting platform. She usually chose 2 time slots to broadcast, afternoon and midnight. After she became a horror game streamer, her popularity increased and she attracted a group of die-hard fans. Every night, they would take out their phones from under the quilt and click on her live broadcast room, screaming and scaring to watch her live broadcast. The female lead of this world was called Xia Yi. She was a high school girl who was addicted to games and died suddenly in an internet cafe. After her death, her brain waves inadvertently ran into a horror game and she faced all kinds of scary scenes every day. It could be said that her life was a bit miserable. All of this changed after she met her male lead. And the male lead of this world was Feng Yu, who called her just now. He was currently her boyfriend and his family made games. Feng Yu himself was a gaming genius. Almost all the games of the Feng family were controlled by him. There were also many small games that were independently developed by him. When he was inadvertently designing a horror game, he found the abnormal game data and found the existence of the female lead, Xia Yi. He successfully communicated with Xia Yi. After knowing what had happened to Xia Yi, Feng Yu decided to save her. However, when he found Xia Yi's house, Xia Yi's body had already been cremated. At that time, he did not think of a way to bring Xia Yi out of the game. Later on, when he wrote code and designed games every day, there would always be a Xia Yi by his side. A real person and a dead person fell in love with each other through brainwaves. Xia Yi was not completely useless. She could often enter the game to help him find BBs that he had not discovered. The two of them were getting more and more in sync, and they were getting more and more in love. Originally, this had nothing to do with the original owner. As mentioned before, Feng Yu was a genius game designer. After 3 years, he finally thought of a way to bring Xia Yi out. Right now, he loved Yu Shi and Xia Yi the most. For Xia Yi, he was even willing to take risks and hurt others. This victim was the original owner. Feng Yu had obtained it from the data. As long as she found someone with similar brainwaves to Xia Yi, she could bring Xia Yi's brainwaves out. Chapter 722. For this reason, he went to the hospital to test the brainwaves of dying people, but he never found a suitable one. Once, he found a suitable one, but when the brainwaves of the deceased left, the body died instantly. Xia Yi's brainwaves couldn't enter the brain at all. In the end, after more than a year, he realized that when the other party was alive, and even when Xia Yi's brainwaves entered the other party's brain, the other party's brainwaves couldn't leave. Only when Xia Yi's brainwaves took over the brain and controlled the body could he drive out the brainwaves of the deceased. Then, he would succeed. Xia Yi was hesitant about this result. She wasn't worried about hurting others, but that Feng Yu would be found out. After all, it was equivalent to murder, and he would have to go to jail. In the end, Feng Yu secretly did this behind Xia Yi's back. He designed many games, especially for female gamers. He attracted a large number of female gamers and let them experience the game. Of course, he couldn't test the brainwaves of the other party only by using a mobile phone to play games. But what if there was a gaming helmet? It would be easy to record the brainwave data of the players. After more than half a year of testing, he chose more than 10 people. In the end, he eliminated the age, appearance, brainwave data, and other aspects of the other party and selected the original owner. Feng Yu was very satisfied with the original owner's brainwave data, family background, and appearance. Moreover, the original owner rarely went out. Basically, she spent most of her time with games. She rarely interacted with people, so no one would suspect that her personality had changed. Next, he made a series of plans to get close to the original owner. He found that the original owner had no interest in finding a boyfriend at all. It was as if all her thoughts were on games. In the end, he decided to use games to attract the original owner. As expected, he succeeded. In 2 months, the two of them confirmed their relationship. When they were together, they didn't interact with each other affectionately, but with games. When the original owner found out that Feng Yu designed games, she was obviously more interested in him. After meeting Feng Yu took the initiative to design some scary games for her. After this, the entire audience on the platform knew that the horror games that the original owner played were all designed by her boyfriend. This undoubtedly made the original owner happy and she liked Feng Yu a little more. But she didn't know that Feng Yu was using these games to push her step by step into the abyss and take her life in the end. After everything was prepared, Feng Yu gave the original owner a gaming chamber. The original owner's brainwaves were squeezed out from this gaming chamber. After he succeeded, he inserted the brainwaves of the original Xia Yi into the computer. Originally, he wanted to eliminate her by deleting the data. However, Xia Yi, who had just woken up, accidentally knocked over the water on the table. The water spilled onto the computer. When the computer was fixed, the original owner's brainwaves would disappear. Later on, Xia took over everything that belonged to the original owner of the body. She was a gamer, so she started to work as the original owner of the body. The horror games that she played were even designed by Feng Yu. Among them, the most famous were 3 horror games: Zombie Bride, Vampire Bride, and Ghost King's Bride. In these 3 games, the player had to help the human bride avoid zombies, vampires, and ghost kings to succeed. So far, not even Xia had succeeded. These 3 games were also known as levels that could never be cleared in the world of horror games. It wasn't that the bride ended up marrying a zombie, vampire, or ghost king. It was that the bride ended up committing suicide every single time. Family, friends, enemies, hobbies, feelings, hatred. She took her phone and handbag, walked to the shoe cabinet, and changed into a pair of 10 centimeters high heels. When she opened the door, she saw a familiar handsome face. She smiled at him. "When did you come?" "Not long ago." "You must be lying." "Well, you guessed right. I've been waiting for half an hour." Feng Yu smiled and handed a beautiful rose to Tanguo. Tanguo gladly accepted it. "It's very beautiful. I like it." "Xiaoguo, as long as you like it." Feng Yu observed Tanguo's face and felt that she was a little different today. Chapter 724. Of course, he did not suspect that Tanguo already knew his purpose. Otherwise, with her personality, she would definitely not talk to him in a pleasant manner, so he was not worried at all. The 2 of them went to the restaurant, and Feng Yu was very gentlemanly as he ordered Tanguo's favorite dishes. The 2 of them ate and chatted about the game. Almost all they talked about was the game. However, Feng Yu did not know that at this time, Tanguo already liked him very much. She was really moved by him, but she did not have the time to tell him. Now that she was here, of course, she had to let him know about her true feelings. "Feng Yu. What's wrong, Xiaoguo?" Feng Yu raised his head and gave Tanguo the most appropriate smile. It seemed that whenever he faced her, he would always smile like this. Tanguo held her fork and chuckled. "Do you like me?" "Of course I do. If I didn't like you, why would I chase you for so long and even design a special game for you?" Feng Yu had already thought about these words many times in his mind, so he did not feel any pressure to say them. A smile appeared on Tanguo's face. "I like you too. It's not the game that I liked you at the beginning." Feng Yu looked at this somewhat pure smile and his heart stopped. There was an indescribable feeling, but he quickly ignored it. Tanguo lowered her head and took a small sip of red wine. She looked at Feng Yu with smiling eyes. "In the past, my game was more important than you. One day, I suddenly realized that you are more important than my game. Feng Yu, I think I like you very much." Feng Yu had not heard such a pure confession in a long time. It was because of this pure confession that he found it difficult to breathe. He forced a smile and quickly thought of Xia. His smile became more natural. "It's my honor to be liked by Miss Tang. I plan to change the time of the live broadcast. In the future, it will be from 8 to 12 in the evening. I will leave the afternoon for you." Tanguo said to herself, "If you're not free, I'll go to your company to find you. After all, we're in a relationship. You like me, and I like you. It's not fair for you to come to me alone. I want to try to do something for you, so it's fair. Actually, there's no need for that. I'm willing to spend time with Xiaoguo because I like you." Feng Yu was a little nervous, because Tanguo was going to show up in her company. Xia definitely couldn't come out. Tanguo acted as if she didn't know. She just said, you said it yourself. You're willing. Because I like you, I'm willing to spend time with you and get to know you better. Unless you think that I will annoy you, or you don't like me that much. That's why you rejected my good intentions. Of course, Feng Yu could not answer like that. He smiled and said, I'm afraid that this will bring you trouble and make you feel tired. Playing games is very interesting, but designing games is very boring. It's okay. It's not boring at all to be with my boyfriend. Tangua's smile was sweet and sincere. Feng Yu couldn't refuse and could only agree. System, the host really doesn't give me a way out. It's a familiar trick. In the end, Feng Yu sent Tangua home with mixed feelings. He was afraid that Tangua would come up and give him a goodbye kiss. Fortunately, it didn't happen. She just waved her hand and said, see you tomorrow. She also said that she had a good dinner tonight and closed the door. Isn't he going to take my body for his true love? Tangua looked at the mirror and smiled. Before that, I want to be the true love hidden in his heart that he doesn't even know about. System, it's a little cold. Chapter 725. At 11:00 in the evening, Tangua connected to the live stream because the second period of her previous live streams was from 11 to 3 o'clock. As soon as she opened the live stream, many familiar faces and die-hard fans rushed in to greet her. They also asked her what game she was playing today and what level of horror she was at so that they could prepare themselves. Tangua turned the camera to her and smiled. I won't be live streaming today. I'm just here to say hello. Tang, why aren't you live streaming? I'm still waiting to fall asleep listening to the horror background music. Are you sure you can fall asleep while listening to Tang's live stream of horror games? Why don't you let Tang sing a song so that you can fall asleep faster? Is Tang going on a date with her boyfriend and having a sweet and crazy night? Is that why she's not live streaming? I understand. Live streamers need nightlife too. We're all adults and we understand. The live stream was noisy. After 2 minutes, when Tangua saw that the number of viewers had soared to 2 million, she said, I'm here to inform all of you that I'm going to change the time of my live stream from now on. In the afternoon, I'll change it to 8 to 12. I won't be live streaming at midnight. As soon as Tangua finished speaking, the fans in the live stream started to discuss. They were all wondering what was wrong with her and why she was changing the time of her live stream. With this change, she would lose 3 to 4 hours of live stream time. Although there weren't that many people in the afternoon because everyone had work, there were still many people who liked to watch horror games in her live stream to experience the thrill and excitement. They wanted to watch Tangua play all the horror games that they didn't dare to play. It was their own wish. Now that they heard that Tangua's live stream was going to lose 4 hours, they couldn't accept it at all and protested in the live stream. Don't worry, everyone. If you're free, I can live stream for you too. Even though some people in the live stream had already started to scold her, Tangua still smiled at them. Live streamers have their own lives too. You can't spend all your time on games, right? You can't watch my live stream from morning till night, right? Perhaps her voice was magical, but the fans in the live stream calmed down. There had to be a reason why Tang's live stream was going to lose 4 hours, right? Tangua replied, because I have to accompany my boyfriend in the afternoon. Fuck. Okay, you can do it. Tang, I really don't know what to say in a few words. You actually forgot your friends when you saw a man. You actually want to abandon us for your boyfriend. Hearing this reason, the fans felt like they had been forced to eat a mouthful of dog food, but they were not that excited. Tangua continued. In the future, in the afternoon, I might occasionally broadcast my life with my boyfriend. He's a very good game designer. You know that. Aren't you curious about the life of a game designer? Of course they were curious. The fans quickly replied. She said that if it was convenient for her, she would definitely broadcast her and her boyfriend's life and work more often. They were really not afraid of being stuffed. After communicating with her fans, Tangwa turned off the live stream with a smile on her face. The first step was to introduce Fengyu to all her fans. The second step was to broadcast their time together to the fans. She would use the remaining feelings of the original owner to treat Fengyu well. She would guarantee that he would remember this sweet love for the rest of his life. Chapter 726. The next morning, Tangguo woke up very early and made 2 perfect breakfasts. She took a photo and posted it on her live stream account with the caption, "Making breakfast for my boyfriend." Fans, fuck, I woke up early and was fed a mouthful of dog food. Tangguo carried the thermos box and drove to the phone corporation building to wait. The people who entered the building couldn't help but look at her. Her face was too outstanding. She had been a live streamer before, so it was impossible for her to be ugly. In fact, she was even more beautiful in real life than when she appeared on the live stream. Fengyu had never brought Tangguo here, and Tangguo had never thought of coming here either. The two of them had met because of the game. They had gotten along as a couple because of the game. There were many things that a couple should do between them. Fengyu got out of the car and immediately saw Tangguo standing in the wind. He was surprised and quickly walked over with the most perfect smile on his face. "Xiaoguo. Why are you here?" He was a little puzzled. It was the first time Tangguo had come to the phone corporation building to look for him. Even if she had said that she would come to look for him yesterday, they had agreed to meet in the afternoon. A smile appeared on Tangguo's beautiful face. She looked straight at Fengyu with her beautiful eyes and didn't hide her love for him. She handed the thermos box in her hand to Fengyu. "Ah, you must not have eaten breakfast. It must be a bread and a cup of coffee later. I made it myself. I don't know if it's to your taste. You can try it first. If you like it, I'll bring it to you every morning." Fengyu's heart stopped. He looked at the thermos box in her fair and slender hands. It was impossible for her hands to cook often. What she liked most was to stay up late to play games and then sleep until noon. Then she would order takeout to eat, do a facial, and start live streaming the game. He knew all this not because he liked her, but because he wanted to know more about her and get closer to her. That was why he had done so much research. "Why? You don't like it? Do you think that it must taste bad?" Tangguo was a little unhappy. "It's my good intentions." "Ah, are you really not going to try it?" Fengyu came back to his senses and didn't dare to look at her eyes. He hadn't noticed it before, but her eyes were really beautiful and clean. She was different from other game streamers. Other game streamers did it for fame and money. She, on the other hand, came from a good family background. She streamed games simply because she liked them. If she really wanted to become famous and earn money, she would definitely choose to play popular games. With her style, it would be easy for her to become the top sister of the platform. He took the insulated box and said, "Thank you. Doesn't Xiaoguo like to sleep in? It's not good for your health to wake up so early last night." "I didn't live stream last night." Tangguo stood beside him. She tilted her head and smiled as she said, "Didn't we agree to leave the afternoon for you? I've discussed it with my fans. In the future, the time of the live broadcast will be changed to 8 p.m. to 12 o'clock p.m. Sleeping until 7 o'clock p.m. is enough. Breakfast takes half an hour. It only took me 10 minutes to drive here. I'm just on time. That's very hard. Just buy some food for breakfast." For a game designer who was addicted to designing games, it was normal to not have time to eat breakfast. When he was hungry, he would eat something casually. Even lunch and dinner were not on time. When he was serious, he didn't like people to disturb him. In the past, when the servants at home sent him food, they were all sent away by him. Chapter 727. Let's go in and have a seat. Tanggua had brought him breakfast. Feng Yu didn't want to take it, so he chased her away. Hearing his words, Tanggua naturally held his arm, but his body stiffened. Tanggua turned her head and asked, "What's wrong? Are you shy? Are you afraid that the people in the company will ask who I am? Can't you just say that I'm your girlfriend? I'm thinking that Xiaogua is so beautiful. If someone sees her later, I'll feel a little uncomfortable." Feng Yu had prepared these words long ago. In order to achieve his goal, he had secretly done a lot of homework. He was so meticulous that he knew the meaning and reaction of every sentence better than people who were really in love. He was also prepared to explain his unintentional actions. "Oh, so you're jealous." Feng Yu's body slowly relaxed. He smiled at Tanggua and led her into the company. After entering the company, they were indeed sized up by many people. "Young Master Feng, is this your girlfriend?" Feng Yu nodded and said reservedly, "Yes." He formally introduced Tanggua to the company's members. He looked very serious, making everyone think that this was a girlfriend that he was very serious about and that he was going to marry in the future. Everyone looked at Tanggua with even more gentleness and enthusiasm. This was the future young madam of the Feng Corporation. "Are you Tang Tang?" Unexpectedly, there were also people in the Feng Corporation who watched Tanggua's live broadcast and recognized Tanggua at a glance. The other party's eyes widened. He couldn't believe that the female horror game streamer he had been following was actually young Master Feng's girlfriend. Thinking back to last night when Tanggua said that she wanted to accompany her boyfriend, the other party almost fainted. How was he going to live with this dog food every day? Tanggua smiled and greeted the other party. She admitted her identity and followed Feng Yu to his office. And the employee who knew Tanggua quickly told the people around him about this amazing female game streamer. He told them about Tanggua's first live broadcast as Yen Yi. Later on, she played a few popular games and finally chose the unpopular horror game. He even said that he had watched so many female game streamers, but he hadn't seen anyone who played better than her. "Eat breakfast first. I'll make coffee for you." Tanggua opened the thermos and handed it to Feng Yu. Then, she turned and left. A beautiful woman would be popular no matter where she was. When they heard that she wanted to make coffee for Feng Yu, everyone enthusiastically guided her to the pantry. Feng Yu sat in his office and touched the USB in his pocket. There was nothing but Xia Yi's brain waves. In order to prevent any accidents from happening to Xia Yi, he sent Xia Yi's brainwave data to the USB flash drive and carried it with him. Whenever he was alone, he would put her on the computer. He looked at the breakfast in front of him, released his hand, and began to eat. The taste was surprisingly good. It could be said that the food in front of him was not as delicious as the food in front of him. When Tanggua returned, he had already finished half of the breakfast in the thermos. Tanggua asked him, "Is it to your liking?" "It's delicious. I've never had such a delicious breakfast." He looked at Tanggua. This was the most sincere compliment he had given her in the year they had known each other. "Really, it's very delicious." He was afraid that she wouldn't believe him, so he quickly added. He didn't know that he was afraid that she wouldn't believe him and would be unhappy. It was because he was starting to care about her. "The coffee is ready. Since it's delicious, you eat more. I'll make more for you tomorrow." System: no one can withstand the host's gentleness. Chapter 728. After breakfast and resting for a while, Feng Yu subconsciously picked up his coffee and took a sip. His eyes were filled with amazement. He had done so much research on her, but it seemed that he still did not know her well enough. Recalling that she did not cook or make coffee in the past, he could not help but sneak a glance at the beautiful woman sitting quietly not far away. She really looked like an angel as she held her phone in her hand. He quickly lowered his head and did not look at her. If he looked at her for too long, he was afraid that he would not be able to do it. Had he not been preparing for a long time for little E to come back to life? Little E had been by his side for more than 5 years. Their relationship was so deep that neither of them could leave the other. After taking 2 sips of coffee, he began to focus on his work on the computer. During this time, Tanguo did not say a word. She only secretly took a picture of Feng Yu's side profile and uploaded it to her social media account with the caption, "A hardworking boyfriend." Feng Yu was so focused on his work that he barely looked up. When he felt that it was time, he stretched and subconsciously looked at where Tanguo had been sitting. However, she was nowhere to be seen. He shook his head. It was just a little bit of heat. He picked up the cold coffee and took a sip. Although it was cold, it still tasted good. Without hesitation, he drank it all. Then, he immersed himself in his work again and completely forgot to eat. At about 12:30 p.m., he felt that something was wrong in the office. When he looked up, he saw Tanguo and the 2 lunch boxes in her hands. He was a little surprised. "I happen to be free today." "Aw, since you're working, I didn't want to disturb you. So, I went home and made some food for you. I heard that you liked it this morning, so I made more." Tanguo put the insulated box on the desk with a smile. "Are you done with your work? Even if you're not, you should eat first." Feng Yu felt an indescribable mix of emotions. However, he was soon attracted by the delicious food. Why had he not noticed before that he would feel hungry when it was time to eat? "Xiaoguo, have you eaten?" Tanguo shook her head. "No. I rushed over because I wanted to eat with you. It tasted even better than this morning." The dishes were also very sumptuous. Even the snow-white rice tasted better than what he had eaten before. Her culinary skills were so good that she didn't seem like a rich girl who only liked to play games. It had been a long time since he had eaten such a delicious and appetizing meal. He actually ate more than half of the meal by himself. After eating, he felt a little embarrassed. "It's too delicious." "It's okay. I don't eat much anyway. I'm happy to see that you likes it." Tanguo's gaze was very sincere. Feng Yu quickly remembered his purpose and hurriedly shifted her gaze away. "Is it boring to keep me company here?" "It's okay. Actually, it's not boring. Although I'm still sitting at the side and playing games, I can always remember that there's another person beside me. It's different. I'll bring you breakfast and lunch in the future, you." Feng Yu hurriedly refused. "No, it's too tiring for you. You still have to broadcast until midnight. It's not good for your health if you don't get enough sleep. Then I'll bring you lunch. I'll stay at your company in the afternoon. I even promised my fans that I'll live stream the life of a game designer. You don't make me go back on my word." Feng Yu was a little unable to reject this beautiful and gentle woman in front of him. He subconsciously nodded. "Okay." After agreeing, he was stunned. However, he couldn't go back on his word. Seeing her happy expression, he felt more and more upset. Chapter 729. This is our genius video game designer. He has contributed to many of the games that you play. One afternoon, Tanguo held a selfie stick in her hand. With Feng Yu's permission, she began to share her work with her fans. When the fans in the live stream saw Feng Yu, they began to cheer. Initially, they thought that they would be bored when Tang Guo reduced her live stream time by half. However, they did not expect that their lives in the afternoon would be even more interesting. Most of the people who watched the live stream were fans of video games. Even if they were not good at the game, they would still enjoy the game. However, they now realized that they preferred watching Tang Guo's live stream with her video game designer boyfriend. Especially when they saw Tang Guo preparing delicious food for Feng Yu every day, the fans began to wonder why they did not choose video game design as their major. Otherwise, they might have had such a beautiful and considerate girlfriend like Tang Guo. The male fans were truly envious of Feng Yu. Feng Yu also watched Tang Guo's live broadcast. From the words of the male fans, he could feel their envy. Vaguely, he felt a sense of pride in his heart. However, he soon cast that thought aside. He did not forget his goal. Just like that, Tang Guo occasionally streamed live in Feng Yu's office in the afternoon. At night, she streamed the horror games that Feng Yu had designed for her. Her fans spent the entire time watching their public display of affection. Late at night, Feng Yu returned home. He turned on his computer and took out a USB flash drive before letting Xia Yi out. Xia Yi's figure appeared on the computer screen. She was very happy to see him. "You, why are you so late today? Why haven't you brought me to the office for the past 2 months? Recently, the office has added a lot of surveillance cameras. There are a lot of people coming in and out. If they find out about Yi's existence, I don't know what kind of danger you will be in. For safety reasons, it's better to leave you at home." Xia Yi was only a high school student. Even if she was a high school student 5 or 6 years ago, she was still a high school student. Therefore, she did not think too much about it. All she thought about every day was being able to talk to Feng Yu. After all, Feng Yu was the one who brought her out of those horror games. Don't worry. I will find a suitable body for you very soon." Xia Yi was a little worried. "It's fine if you can't find one. Please don't do anything that will hurt others. I'm worried that something might happen to you. If you get caught, it's murder. You could go to jail." "I know." With a gentle smile on her face, Feng Yu caressed the screen and even kissed it. "Little Yi, it'll be soon. I'll succeed in half a year at most. There won't be any problems this time. Trust me. When you come out, we'll get married." Yes, Yu is the best." Chapter 730. After turning off the computer and pulling out the USB flash drive, Feng Yu did not go to bed immediately. Instead, he stood by the floor-to-ceiling window and looked at the street lights below, lost for a moment. He took out his mobile phone and clicked on the familiar live broadcast room. Amid the horrible background music, a very pleasant voice sounded. "Witch, run, the witch is coming." Tang Guo's voice came from the mobile phone. "If you are caught by the witch, you will be thrown into a pot of oil to be cooked." Coupled with the horrible background music, her voice was a little more gloomy. The audience watching the live broadcast screamed and hid under the quilt, but could not help but peek. "Well, we have escaped the witch's pursuit and are finally going to the king's castle. It is an empty castle with a key hidden in it. As long as you get the key and open a door in the castle, you can lift the witch's curse and restore the whole country. Of course, if you fail, we will also be cursed and can only wait for the next generation to come and save us. Dear babies, there are 3 more roads. One is a bridge over the river, another is a cliff, and the last one is a road in the forest. There are terrible bones without flesh in the river. They will grab our legs and drag us into the river. The river will corrode our bodies and turn us into bones. The cliff is very narrow. If you are not careful, you will fall and break into pieces. The forest is very mysterious. No one knows what is in it, but it is said that no one who went in has ever come out. So, which road should we choose to go to the king's castle? Feng Yu listened to the deliberately gloomy and pleasant voice and looked at the display of the mobile phone interface. A little girl was standing at the intersection of the three roads and hesitating. Once she made the wrong choice, her game would be over. If she wanted to pass the game, she would have to start all over again. The game could be restarted, he frowned, but life could not be restarted. He held the mobile phone tightly, and two figures kept flashing in his mind. One was Xia Yi, who had been with him for 5 years, and the other was Tang Guo, who had left a deep impression on him in just a few months. There was no doubt that Xiao Guo was a very good girl. If he knew her so well from the beginning, he might not have chosen her and would have chosen someone else. However, he had made so many preparations. Every time he saw Little Yi, he could feel the anticipation in her eyes. Little Yi liked him so much and had been by his side for so long. If he were to say that he might not be able to do it now, Little Yi would be very disappointed. He loved Little Yi. Therefore, he could not disappoint her. Gu Nianchen stared at the screen. As for Xiao Guo, Gu Nianchen closed his eyes. He could only apologize to her for now. Xiao Yi had been in the virtual world for too long. Gu Nianchen wanted her to come out and see this beautiful world. As for Xiao Guo, he would wait for the right opportunity to bring her out in the future. Originally, he had planned to eliminate her brainwaves, but now he changed his mind. Perhaps he wanted to make it an accident for the exchange of brainwaves between the two of them, and not make it man-made. His hands were trembling, and he pursed his lips tightly. He didn't want Xiao Guo to know that this was all a conspiracy. Even Little Yi did not know about this. He was the only one who knew about it. Therefore, it was not a problem for him to keep it a secret. After thinking it through, Feng Yu let out a long sigh. At 12 o'clock, Tang Guo's live stream ended, and he called Tang Guo. "Ah, you're still awake. Do you miss me?" "Yes." Feng Yu replied instinctively. Soon, he got over the strange feeling. The gaming cabin that I gave you last time should be available soon. Are you interested in being its first player? Tang Guo subconsciously held his arm and followed him in as usual. When he was eating breakfast, she went to make him coffee as usual. Breakfast was still delicious. What he didn't say was that when she didn't deliver breakfast, he tried to order takeout, but none of them tasted as good as her cooking. He also made coffee for himself, but he could never make coffee as fragrant as hers. Sometimes, she had something to do in the afternoon. When he was working, he couldn't help but look up and go to her usual spot. When he saw that no one was there, he would feel a little disappointed. He ate his food and chuckled. This damn habit was really scary. Chapter 732. In the following month, Feng Yu's life became even more enriching. Almost every morning this month, when he came to the Feng Corporation building, he could see Tang Guo carrying breakfast. He rejected her every time, but in reality, he did not notice that he was looking forward to her appearance every day. It was just that he was too obsessed with his goal and neglected this. After making coffee for him, she would go to the gym downstairs. 2 hours later, she would go to a beauty salon. After the beauty treatment, she would go home and make lunch. She would bring it to his office and the two of them would eat together. In the afternoon, she would quietly accompany him at work. When she was sure that she would not disturb him, she would turn on her phone and broadcast his work life to her fans. Every time this happened, he could hear how happy she was. After work, they would go to the restaurant to eat together. Actually, what he wanted to say was that the food in the restaurant was not delicious. No matter how good the chef was, he would not be able to cook as delicious as her. Compared to high-end restaurants, he preferred the taste of her food. However, she seemed to like the atmosphere of the restaurant. She would sit opposite him and say, "This is what a boyfriend and girlfriend should do. Date, understand? Ah, you. Date. Yes, this was what a boyfriend and girlfriend should do." Before getting close to her, he had done his research. On weekends, she would wake up very early and drive to his house. His servants were very familiar with her and would happily open the door for her. Every time he woke up, he could smell a familiar scent. Even if he did not wake up, that fragrance would float into his room, making him understand that she was here. His parents liked her very much. In front of his parents, Xiao Guo was the perfect daughter-in-law. She had a good background, good looks, good personality, good cooking, and was interested in games. Their family had a lot to talk about. With her around, their family would never fall into an awkward silence. She had won the favor of everyone. Even her colleagues in the company, some middle-aged and grumpy female colleagues, were all pleasant to her. It was as if she was born to be liked. She had a kind of charm that could not be disliked. On the weekends, after breakfast, she would drag him to the hairdresser's and talk to the hairdresser for a long time. Finally, she cut a very good hairstyle for him. Her aesthetic standards were undoubtedly very high. He was very satisfied with the new hairstyle. After that, she would drag him to the mall and buy him a few outfits. She would even say in disdain, "Video game designers are indeed similar to programmers." Although young Master Feng's taste is much better than that of programmers, in my eyes, it's not up to standard. From now on, I'll help you prepare what you wear every day. Feng Yu didn't know how to refute that. They were a couple, so they should indeed go shopping together. He looked at the clothes, tie, and watch in his hands and asked, "Where's Xiaoguo? You should buy some too." He generously placed the card in her hand. Perhaps it was out of guilt. He clearly knew that she did not lack material things at all. Not to mention her own family, just by doing live broadcasts, she received tens of millions of gifts every day. However, he still placed the card with the most money in her hand and said, "I'll leave the card with Xiaoguo. I'll leave my life in your hands in the future." Okay. She smiled very happily and happily put the card into her bag. Chapter 733. "I've made arrangements for your future," Tang Guo said with a smile. "I've made arrangements for the rest of your life as well. System, I've woken up from my stupor. The gentle and beautiful dream that my dear host weaves is truly terrifying. This lasted for a month. The game that Feng Yu had prepared for Tang Guo was already perfect. The Feng family had been researching holographic games for a long time. The one that Feng Yu had was not really a game. In fact, it was a program that could restrain one's brainwaves. Once a person entered the gaming pod and inserted their consciousness into it, the program inside would instantly control their brain waves for about half an hour. Within this half an hour, Feng Yu had enough time to integrate Xia Yi's brainwaves into Tang Guo's brain. Once he succeeded, the program would bring out Tang Guo's brainwaves. Feng Yu held on to the other USB stick in his hand. The program was inside. He squeezed it hard before putting it into his pocket. Then, he connected the USB stick with Xia Yi's brainwaves to the computer. Xia Yi was very happy to see him. Are you done? Soon. When Feng Yu saw Xia Yi's happy smile, he felt much less burdened. He touched Xia Yi's face through the screen. "I'm going to help a friend test a game this afternoon. I'll bring you along. It's a holographic game. When we get the chance, I'll send you in to try it out." "Really?" It's a holographic game. Is it one of those legendary gaming cabins? Xia Yi had always loved games. When she heard that it was a holographic game, she was overjoyed. She had never thought that she would be able to witness the birth of a holographic game with her own eyes. Yes, it's the legendary game. She's a live streamer. Our company plans to let her do the initial publicity. Before that, we'll need to test it out. Xia Yi nodded hurriedly. If there were any problems with the live stream, it would have a negative impact on the Feng family. Alright, I need to check if there are any problems with the game. I'll be there in a while. Little E can stay in the USB stick for now. I'll bring you along with me in a while. Feng Yu would not put Xia Yi into a computer with an internet connection. He was afraid that her brainwaves would be lost in the internet world. It would be difficult for him to find her. This had happened before. Host, Feng Yu still wants to make a move on you, right? The system looked at Tanghua, who was shopping in high spirits and couldn't help but ask, "You've been so good to him these past few months. Doesn't he feel anything? Why would he attack you?" Tanghua giggled. "That's because you're too inexperienced. Most people have one thing in common, they're cheap." The system was speechless. It knew this word, but it had not heard it from its host for a long time. He felt a little regretful. Why didn't this world have such a mysterious transmigrator? Could it be that the other party didn't transmigrate? He was a little disappointed. If the other party had transmigrated, the host would have been happier. He had no doubt that Feng Yu was the transmigrator. If she was, the host would have told him immediately. If the other party dares to bully the host like this, it is guaranteed that the host will retaliate even more ruthlessly than now. What you don't have is always more important than what you have, what you lose is always more important than what you have, and the dead are always more important than the living. No matter how good the living were, they couldn't compare to the dead. Although Xia Yi is not dead, she only exists in Feng Yu's world as brainwaves. Chapter 734. Feng Yu prepared so much just to revive her. I've only been with him for a few months. No matter how good I am to him, I can't compare to Xia Yi. Of course, this is only on the surface. When he loses me and I'll never appear by his side again, he won't be able to revive me like he did Xia Yi. Only then will he understand how important I am to him. Tanghua picked out a tie excitedly. Her face was full of smiles. The saleswoman thought that she was happy. She was indeed happy. The system thought that it was the happiness of revenge. The system felt a little sad when it saw that the energy didn't increase at all. Happiness that didn't increase wasn't real happiness. There were too many things mixed in. Some he understood, some he didn't. I used a few months to weave an unforgettable memory for him. His life will be rich and colorful in the future. He won't be lonely at all. Tanghua asked the shop assistant to take down the neckties and shirts that she fancied. Then, she walked over to the accessories section. She bought everything that Feng Yu could buy from head to toe. Everything added up would last her for many years. Of course, the money for these things came from the card that Feng Yu gave her. Since Feng Yu gave it to her, she had to spend it. She ordered the people in the mall to send some of these things to Feng Yu's house and the rest to her house. After doing all this, she donated all the money in her bank card. Yes, she donated it. Not only that, she also called many orphanages' directors and told them that she had a card that would automatically transfer a fixed amount of money to the orphanage's card every month. Tanghua went to the bank with a smile and settled this matter. The card was none other than the one that was bound to the live streaming platform. Then, except for her live streaming platform, she programmed a hidden password for all her social media accounts. Unless one's computer skills were better than hers, they couldn't be opened at all. When Xia Yi took over this body, she could only use her live streaming platform's account and live in her house. However, Xia Yi was just a high school student. When the utility bills for her house were due, she would definitely go to Feng Yu for help. In order not to be exposed, Xia Yi would never go to the family Tang couple. Of course, with her around, Feng Yu could forget about harming the family Tang couple. These few months were more than enough for her to make all these arrangements. As long as Feng Yu dared to show any signs of dealing with the family Tang couple, she would make sure that she would regret it for the rest of her life. System, it's almost done. However, based on her understanding of Feng Yu and the things she had done in the past few months, once she disappeared, even if Xia Yi was exposed, Feng Yu would not do anything to the family this time. This person always liked to love the house and its crow, especially when it came to the family of a person who had been lost forever. By the time he was done, it was already 3:00 in the afternoon. She and Feng Yu had agreed to meet at 5:00 in the afternoon. Remembering that Feng Yu's birthday was in a few days, she went to buy a high-end watch and went to a reputable high-end cake shop to order a cake for Feng Yu. "Miss, do you need to write?" "Of course." Tang Gua smiled. She took a pen and wrote a sentence on a piece of white paper. "I like you more than I like games. Just add this sentence." The manager of the cake shop saw it and couldn't help but laugh. "Miss, your confession is really interesting. It's the first time I've seen it." "I think so too, because I used to treat games as my life." Chapter 735. The cake shop manager was stunned. The game was life. If he loved you more than the game, wouldn't it be more important than his life? She reacted quickly and said, "Miss, your boyfriend is so lucky. I will definitely follow your instructions and create a big surprise for your boyfriend. Miss, is there anything else you need to prepare? Just give this watch to him. He will be very happy." Tang Gua handed the watch to her. They would do a good job. After all, it was really expensive. The shop manager often received such tasks. She recognized the value of the watch when she saw the logo on the box. She couldn't help but be speechless. Indeed, she couldn't understand the world of the rich. It was just a watch, but it was almost 10 million yuan. She put it away carefully and watched Tang Gua leave. After leaving the cake shop, Tang Gua drove home. She changed out of her home clothes and took a shower. It wasn't even 5:00 when Feng Yu called her to say that he was at the door. Tang Gua opened the door and looked at Feng Yu with smiling eyes. "Did you bring it?" "Yes." It was Feng Yu's first time seeing Tang Gua in home clothes. He thought that a beautiful woman like her would prefer sexy home clothes. He didn't expect her clothes to be so cute. It made him feel less uncomfortable. Soon, he came to his senses because he remembered what he had come here for. He was here to take over her body, which could be considered as taking her life. But why was she smiling so happily at him? If she knew that he was here to take her life, would she still be so happy? "Ah, you, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and upload the game. I'm still waiting to try it. As the first person to experience it, I can't wait." Feng Yu pursed his lips. "No rush." His hand trembled as he held the USB. "I'm a little thirsty. What do you want to drink? Drink or tea?" "Tea." Seeing her look at him in surprise, he quickly said, "I haven't tried Xiaoguo's tea. I want to try it and see if it's as good as coffee." "Okay, I'll make it for you." Feng Yu sat on the sofa with a heavy expression. He closed his eyes. It was a critical moment. He gripped the USB tightly. It took longer to make the tea than to get the drinks. The drink should be in the fridge and would be delivered to him in less than a minute. He could finish the drink in about 2 minutes. After all, his excuse was that he was thirsty. There were many processes involved in making tea. Xiao Guo was a particular person, so she must have a complete set of tea sets here. He watched as Tang Guo took out the tea set and thought that his guess was right. Seeing how smoothly she made tea, Xiao Guo's father must be a tea enthusiast. That tea set was not cheap. His father also had a set. He heard that there were less than 10 sets in the whole country. "Ah you, the tea is ready." Feng Yu held the teacup. In fact, he did not like to drink tea. He took a sip and savored the fragrance in the tea. Just as he thought, it tasted better than coffee. Xiao Guo was really a perfect girl. "Actually, tea doesn't quench my thirst." Tang Guo held her cheeks and said, "Drinks do. Xiao Guo's tea quenches my thirst better." Feng Yu said this subconsciously. It was completely different from what he had prepared in the past. However, he ignored it because of his nervous and conflicted heart. Half an hour later, Feng Yu had calmed down a lot. He touched the 2 USB sticks. He did not forget that one of them was Xia Yi. They went to Tang Guo's game streaming room. Feng Yu silently started to install the game. Chapter 736. Even though his back was facing Tang Guo, Feng Yu could feel her focused gaze. When those beautiful eyes were looking at him seriously, it was hard to ignore them even if he wanted to. Feng Yu didn't dare to look back. He was afraid that if he did, he wouldn't be able to do it. Thinking of what he had to do, he quickly drove the messy thoughts out of his mind and focused on installing the game and debugging the gaming chamber. Half an hour later, he exhaled deeply and stood up. "It's done." He looked back at Tang Guo, who was sitting on the chair with her chin propped up and smiling at him. She looked so innocent when she smiled. For a moment, Feng Yu wanted to run out of the door, but he touched the other USB flash drive in his pocket and held himself back. "It's done," he said again. His lips and teeth were trembling slightly. His hands were also trembling. He didn't know what was wrong, but since things had come to this point, he had to continue. "Is it done?" Tang Guo got up from the chair and walked to the gaming chamber to take a look. "Ah you're amazing. Can I try it now?" "Yes." Feng Yu only felt that the word was incomparably heavy. He shifted his gaze elsewhere and didn't look at her face. Tang Guo looked at him with a smile and called, "Ah you." "Yes." Feng Yu instinctively turned back and saw a pair of eyes full of love. "It's your birthday in a few days. I've prepared a birthday present for you. The present will be sent directly to your company. Don't forget to sign for it." "Okay. You'd better get off work early that day. We'll go for dinner tonight." Tang Guo stepped into the gaming chamber. When she lay down, she said to him with a smile, "Next month, I'll take you home to meet my parents. They asked me before, and I told them about you. They were all happy for me that I found such an amazing boyfriend. They even laughed at me and said that I finally found a like-minded person." Feng Yu was stunned and didn't know how to answer for a moment. Tang Guo was already lying in the gaming chamber. She blinked at him. "Then I'm going to be the first person to experience holographic games. "Ah I'll see you later." Feng Yu opened her mouth and felt a little upset. She would never know that they would not be able to meet again in a while. The moment she saw Tang Guo close her eyes, Feng Yu found it difficult to breathe. He stood there and hesitated for 5 minutes. Then, he gritted his teeth and finally pressed a hidden button outside the gaming capsule. This button could start a certain program and restrict Tang Guo's brainwaves. He looked at the display on the side of the computer and only felt very uncomfortable in his heart. There was a kind of hot thing that wanted to rush out from his eyes. But his face was solemn. Other than being a little pale, it was as if nothing had happened. His hands trembled as he inserted the USB with Xia Yi's brainwaves into the gaming chamber. He looked cold and ruthless, but no one understood that he was about to suffocate. Saving Xia Yi had been his wish for many years. This experiment also represented a new beginning, so no matter what, he had to continue. After making sure that Xia Yi's brainwaves were inserted into Tanggua's brain, he glanced at a red button in the gaming chamber. As long as he pressed it, Tanggua's brainwaves would be expelled from her brain and bound to the special program. At this time, Tanggua, who was lying in the gaming chamber, saw Feng Yu's expression clearly. The system asked with concern, "Dear host, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" "No, I'm fine." Chapter 737. Tanggua first felt that her soul was bound by something. Then, she realized that there was indeed something in her brain. The system told her that it was Xia Yi's brainwaves. Perhaps it was because her soul had entered this body in the first place, so Feng Yu had bound her soul instead of the brainwave seen in this world. She did not resist. After all, she had prepared for this day for several months. System, yes, I've never seen such a person. She would treat someone sincerely just for revenge. Her goal was to make that person suffer even more. How could there be such a person in this world? Tanggua could feel that the very weak brainwaves had already occupied the brain of this body. However, it had not awakened yet. In front of her powerful soul, the other party was really too weak. As long as she wanted, Feng Yu's program could not bind her at all. Even if she was bound, it would be easy for her to make Xia Yi's brainwaves disappear. However, she would not do that. In the end, she felt something pull her soul out and put it in a very dark place. Not long after, her eyes lit up and she came to a somewhat special place. She could feel that there were countless networks around her. She could go through one layer of network to reach another place. She quickly understood that Feng Yu had put her into the computer. He probably wanted to take her brainwaves out of the program. That was why he used the computer. The network she saw was the network. Those layers were probably firewalls or something like that. Those networks were also different colors. She had a feeling that these could not stop her. She could wander freely in the world of the network. After all, she was really not a brainwave, but a powerful soul. A soul that had passed through countless worlds. Interesting. Tanggua was very curious. What could she do in the network? Could she go through these firewalls and security layers and run into other people's computers? Occasionally, she could look through the other party's hidden folders to see if there were any secrets. Also, would she be able to see through those people who secretly downloaded movies with just a glance? System, it's a long story. She quickly threw these thoughts to the back of her mind. Feng Yu, who was in front of the computer, was looking at her with a very complicated gaze. Of course, Feng Yu could only see a string of data that he thought was asleep. I'm sorry, Xiaogua. Tanggua sneered. Since he knew he was sorry, why did he have to hurt her in the first place? I will take good care of you. When the time is right, I will save you, Feng Yu said with a pained expression. Little E, you haven't seen the outside world for many years. I've spent so many years and conducted so many experiments. I've also chosen countless people. In the end, I've only chosen you. That's the only way I can guarantee that this experiment will succeed, Feng Yu said with a pained expression. I just want little E to see the changes in this world. She has been waiting for a long time. She is a very innocent girl. I don't want to disappoint her again and again. I'm sorry, Feng Yu's words, I'm sorry, but I don't want you to forgive me. I don't expect you to forgive me, but please believe me. One day, I will bring you back. In the future, Feng Yu seemed to be struggling. I will bring you by my side every day. After Feng Yu finished speaking, she planned to put Tanggua's brainwaves back into the USB flash drive. At this time, there was a movement in the game chamber. Chapter 738. Xiao Yi. Feng Yu quickly turned around. When he saw the person in the gaming cabin moving, he almost called out a Xiao Yi. Finally, he remembered his plan and quickly changed his words. Xiaogua, how do you feel? How's your gaming experience? Feng Yu came to the gaming cabin and suppressed the excitement in his heart. In fact, he did not know if he had really succeeded. However, according to his many years of experiments, the success rate had reached 95%. Otherwise, he would not dare to do it directly. Xia Yi felt her body was a little heavy. She had never felt like this when she was using her brain waves. She could play freely in the computer. She was at a loss for what to do with this familiar yet strange feeling. She opened her eyes and saw Feng Yu in front of her. She subconsciously asked, didn't you say that you would bring me into the game to play? What's the situation now? Xiaogua. Feng Yu deliberately did not know that the person in front of him was Xia Yi. Xiaogua, what are you talking about? Didn't you decide to be the first user of the holographic gaming cabin? How do you feel now? Xia Yi looked at Feng Yu excitedly and finally felt that something was wrong. She looked down and realized that she had a body. She widened her eyes in disbelief. The moment Xia Yi opened her eyes, Feng Yu knew that he had succeeded. The innocent and naive eyes belonged to Xia Yi. Her childish expression, coupled with her delicate face, made him feel a little awkward all of a sudden. The originally perfect body and face actually had some cracks under his aesthetic sense. It was as if she should not be like this. She should be perfect at all times. Even if she stood in the wind early in the morning with her hair messed up by the cold wind, she should still be perfect. Xia Yi was completely flustered. She could not lie to Feng Yu. She quickly told him that she was not the host who tried the game. She also did not understand why she had run into his body. She also could not explain why this happened. She thought that it might be a mistake in the program that caused the accident. In her heart, she was secretly delighted. She actually had a body. Just now, she lowered her head to take a look. This body was especially perfect. Her skin was white and her figure was slender. The only flaw was that she should be slightly older than her actual age. However, she had a body. She was also a little afraid. She was afraid that the other party would find trouble with her, and she was also afraid that this would be temporary. What should we do now? Xia Yi asked nervously. Feng Yu hurriedly comforted her, I don't know what's wrong either. After Xiaogua entered the gaming cabin, I brought you in as well. I wanted you to experience the game, but I didn't expect, little E, come out. Let's think of something. Xia Yi nodded and climbed out of the gaming pod. The gaming pod was very close to the laptop. Perhaps because she hadn't used her body for a long time, she lost her balance and fell towards the laptop. Even though Feng Yu quickly came over to help her, she still pushed over the glass beside the laptop. The water in the glass spilled onto the laptop. Due to inertia, her entire body also fell onto the computer table. She pushed the laptop to the ground, and a loud bang was heard. Feng Yu had already pulled Xia Yi back, but when he saw that the computer was wet and had fallen to the ground, he felt as if his brain had stopped beating and his heart had stopped beating. He didn't care about Xia Yi, who hadn't steadied herself, and rushed to the side of the computer. Chapter 739. Xia was not used to having a new body. She fell on the ground and did not understand why Feng Yu let her go. She rubbed the place where she fell and stood up. She looked at Feng Yu with annoyance. He picked up the laptop carefully, wiped the water crazily, and took it apart. She felt very uncomfortable. However, she had just had a new body. She had been in love with Feng Yu for so long. She walked over and said, "I'm sorry, Yu. I'm not used to using a new body. That's why I knocked over the glass and accidentally pushed the laptop down." However, Feng Yu ignored her. He quickly took the laptop apart and cleaned the water inside. According to his experience, he tried his best to save the laptop that contained Tangua's brainwaves. His heart was beating fast. He had never thought that there would be such an accident. If he could do it all over again, he would put her in the USB flash drive first before going to see Xia. Xia had already had a new body. She would be fine with it. Why did he have to see Xia first instead of not protecting her? She had already lost her body and he had taken it away personally. Could he not even protect her brainwaves now? He did not hear what Xia was saying. He only had one thought now, which was to fix the laptop and find her. He had to put her in the USB flash drive safely and carry it with him. That way, he would not lose her. While fixing the laptop, Feng Yu's mind was full of Tangua. He recalled all the times he had seen her in the past few months. However, the more anxious he was, the more his hands trembled. After half an hour, he still had not fixed the laptop. Xia was a little hungry. Looking at Feng Yu, she felt a little sad. She was not familiar with this place. It would be bad if she broke other people's things. So she walked to Feng Yu's side and patted him on the shoulder. "Yu, I'm hungry. Can you take me to eat something first?" If what happened just now had not happened, Feng Yu would have been very happy. The person he liked was Xia. They had been in love for many years. He would be the happiest if he could save her. But now, he only felt that the woman who was talking beside him was very annoying. When Xia patted him, his hand trembled and he installed the wrong place. He looked up gloomily and said, "Go aside first." "Ah, you. Didn't you hear me? I told you to go to the side first. If you're hungry, go find something to eat. I don't have time to take care of you right now. I have something important to do." Very important. Xia burst into tears. It turned out that when she was still a brainwave, Feng Yu was very gentle to her. She had never spoken to her in such a cold tone or with such a scary face. She couldn't accept it. "Ah, Yu, I really didn't come to this body on purpose. Are you blaming me for being exposed? You can just let them take me away." She didn't understand at all. So what if the computer was broken? Even if it was an important document, based on her years of understanding of Feng Yu, he shouldn't have paid so much attention to it. At least, she thought that between the documents and her, Feng Yu should have chosen her. However, Feng Yu was no longer paying attention to her. She could only cry as she squatted by the side and watched Feng Yu carefully turn on the phone. That look of anticipation was very much like when Feng Yu had once told her that she could help her resurrect. After turning on the computer, Feng Yu went to look for Tangua's brain waves. Chapter 740. Unfortunately, he had searched through all the documents. Even though he had recovered all the deleted information, he still could not find her. "You, what are you looking for? Is there an important document?" Feng Yu turned around stiffly and looked at Xia, whose face was full of tears. He recalled everything that had happened today. "You, what should I do now? I really don't know why this happened. Do you blame me?" can you think of a way to find your friend? I'll return her body to her. Feng Yu was stunned. He looked at the computer that had been restored. Other than her, nothing was missing. He whispered, I can't find it. He couldn't find it. She had disappeared. Feng Yu's eyes turned red. Wasn't it his wish to revive little E? Wasn't it his wish? Wasn't it his wish for so many years? Why was he so upset now? You, don't ignore me. I know it was my fault just now. It's all my fault for breaking your computer. Xia Yi hugged her arms and cried. What should she do if Feng Yu ignored her? She was unfamiliar with this world and could not survive on her own. It was better to put her in the online world. Feng Yu snapped out of his thoughts and looked at Xia Yi, who was crying softly. He reached out to wipe the tears on her face and hugged her. Okay, don't cry. His voice was extremely gentle, as if they had returned to the past. Xia Yi felt relieved and stopped crying. What should we do now? She asked. Feng Yu patted Xia Yi gently. I don't know where she is. Let's leave it at that for now. We'll talk about it when I find her. Feng Yu took out a tissue and carefully wiped Xia Yi's tears. Don't cry in the future, understand? Okay. Feng Yu felt relieved when he saw Xia Yi smile. How could she cry? She didn't look good when she cried. His eyes and mouth were full of gentleness. Smile more. Haven't you always wanted to have a body? Take this opportunity to see the world. Xia Yi was of course happy, but at the same time, she felt uneasy. She did not know how long she could have this body. You, what's wrong with your friend? When can we find her? I'll try my best to find her. Don't think too much. Maybe she ran into the online world like you did before. The online world is so big, it's not easy to find her. Feng Yu's voice was trembling. He wasn't even sure if she had gone to the online world. There was also a chance that she had disappeared forever. You, I'm really afraid that you'll ignore me. I'm so unfamiliar with this world. The only thing I'm familiar with is you. Xia Yi was happy to get her body, but she was also afraid of living in this strange world alone. Of course, she was most afraid of being exposed and taken away for research. In her heart, she hoped that she could occupy this body forever. Having a physical body was much better than living in the virtual world of the internet. She could hug Feng Yu, wear beautiful dresses, and eat delicious food. Don't worry. My friend is a streamer. I've told you before that her job is to broadcast games every day. She seldom goes home, so she won't be exposed. Feng Yu held Xia Yi in her arms and carefully explained to her about Tangua's life. She also taught her how to broadcast games. Xia Yi was very curious about all this. She was very interested in the game and the internet, so she got used to it very quickly. Chapter 741. In order not to give herself away, Feng Yu showed Xia Yi a video of Tangua's previous live streams and asked her to imitate it at home. When she was almost done, Feng Yu asked her to try it out. Everything went smoothly. Although the fans felt that there was something strange about the host today, they did not think too much about it. The voice was still the same, and the tone was still the same. As for what was strange about it, they could not figure it out yet. Will this really work? Yes. Fans tend to be forgetful. Little E, you can slowly adapt to your style of live streaming and there won't be any problems. Feng Yu stood not far away as he spoke. As he watched Xia Yi's live stream, there was only one voice in his mind. It was different. No matter how well she imitated, they were still two different people, even if their bodies were the same. Feng Yu turned around with his diary. While Xia Yi was live streaming, he had been searching for Tang Guo in the online world. Right then, Tang Guo was freely traversing through the online world. She was so engrossed in looking at strange things that she could not be bothered with Feng Yu. She realized that she could really pass through all kinds of obstacles. No matter how private the information was, she could see it without any obstacles. This was different from Xia Yi's brain waves. Perhaps she was a soul, and these virtual obstacles in the online world could not stop her at all. In order to prove her ability, Lin Yiqian even transmigrated to the secret organization's forum. She saw all kinds of strange things that these people were spreading. It was completely disruptive to the social order. Most importantly, the leader of the group even said arrogantly that not many people could compare to his computer skills. He also told everyone to speak freely and that the forum was very safe. The server was also located overseas. There was no way the country could control it. As soon as Tang Guo heard this, she couldn't help but cause some damage. She exposed all the members of the forum to the police, then waved her sleeves and left without a trace. In the vast online world, Lin Yiqian had seen countless scams, crimes, kidnappings, and a series of dark incidents happening in just a few hours. As long as she did not like it, she would reveal the information and connections that they had painstakingly tried to hide. Every time, she would leave without a care in the world. System for the past few hours, Tang Guo had been having a lot of fun. She did not care about the things she had done or how much she had shocked the police and the criminals. After that, for a long time, they did not dare to do bad things on the internet. They all agreed that the country had a very powerful computer expert. He was the kind of person who could fight against 100 people. They were no match for him at all. In the end, when she was almost done, she didn't forget to return to the computer that Xia Yi was using. She hid in a corner and watched Xia Yi play the game live with her own eyes. From nervousness to proficiency, she slowly integrated into her own style. She then ran to Feng Yu's laptop and searched for that familiar fluctuation on the internet. Unfortunately, she didn't find anything. She saw Feng Yu's pained expression and hopeless expression. She sat in the corner and laughed. People only know what's good when they lose something. Tong, you have to understand one thing. Don't do anything that you will regret. Things that have happened can never be repeated. Even if you do, it will be different. She propped up her chin and muttered, even if I've taken my revenge and live a different life from hers, this isn't her anymore. Chapter 742. Young Master Feng, didn't Miss Tang come with you today? Young Master Feng, isn't Miss Tang coming in the afternoon? Young Master Feng, why haven't I seen Miss Tang for so long? I'm starting to miss Miss Tang's coffee. Young Master Feng, when will Miss Tang be free to come over? Faced with his colleagues' questions, Feng Yu was about to suffocate. Almost every day when he walked into the office, countless pairs of eyes would stare at him. They were all asking when Tang Guo would be coming. These few days, he was really in agony. He locked himself in his office and stared blankly at the empty coffee cup beside him. He raised his head and looked at the spot where she used to sit. His heart was so uncomfortable that he couldn't breathe. He patted his head in frustration and tried to immerse himself in his work. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. Young Master Feng, someone's looking for you. It seems to be a staff member from the cake shop. That cake shop seems to be very famous. Oh yes, I remember that young Master Feng's birthday is coming up. Could it be that Miss Tang prepared this for young Master Feng? I think it's today. Feng Yu froze. He quickly stood up and rushed out. Are you Mr. Feng, Feng Yu? Other than the expensive cake, there was also an expensive watch inside. The shop manager decided to bring 2 male staff members with her to deliver the cake. Feng Yu nodded stiffly. He clenched his hands in his pockets and moved his lips. Yes, it's me. Happy birthday, Mr. Feng. The shop manager led the staff to sing a birthday song for Feng Yu. Finally, she placed the small and exquisite cake in Feng Yu's hands. This is the cake that Miss Tang ordered for you. And this is the birthday present that Miss Tang prepared for you. Mr. Feng, if there's no problem, please sign for it. Feng Yu stared at the cake and watch in a daze. His mind exploded and went blank. He didn't know what to say at all. Mr. Feng. You must be too happy. I didn't expect Miss Tang to prepare such a surprise for you. Feng Yu came back to his senses and quickly signed for it. He said thank you and took the cake and watchbox back to his office. He forgot to thank his colleagues who wished him a happy birthday. Young Master Feng must be overjoyed. Yeah, Miss Tang is so nice. She even prepared a gift for young Master Feng. How could he not be happy? I'm so envious of young Master Feng. His girlfriend comes from a good family, she's pretty, considerate, and gentle. If I had a girlfriend like her, I'd love to protect her for the rest of my life. The moment Feng Yu walked into the office and heard this, she clenched the things in her hands tightly as her eyes welled up with tears. When he opened the cake and saw the conspicuous line of small words on it, he collapsed. 2 streams of hot tears gushed out from his eyes, and his heart ached. I like you more than I like games. Feng Yu finally couldn't bear the suppressed feelings in the depths of her heart. She covered her face with her hands and didn't say a word. Her tears flowed like a river and couldn't be stopped. Look at how much pain he is in. The computer was on, so Tang Gua could naturally see Feng Yu's expression. The more painful Feng Yu was, the happier she smiled. This is what you asked for. You just had to dig your own grave. System, I don't want to back down. The cake Xiao Guo ordered is really delicious. The system looked at Feng Yu's tear-filled face and took small bites, as if he couldn't bear to eat the cake. It sighed inwardly. Damn it. The host is a demon's little vixen. Whoever provokes her will be unlucky. However, this Feng Yu deserved it. I really can't bear to eat it all at once, so I'll put it in the fridge and eat a bite every day. In the future, I'll wear this watch Xiao Guo gave me. Xiao Guo, I'll find you. Chapter 743. Young Master Feng, what do you think? All the members of the virtual reality game designer team were in the meeting room. Sensing that Feng Yu was distracted, they felt strange and had to remind him. They looked at each other and saw Feng Yu caressing the expensive watch on his wrist. Was it a gift from Miss Tang? Was young Master Feng, who had always been meticulous in his work, thinking of her? One of the staff members who often watched Tang Gua's live streams was puzzled. Miss Tang had to live stream every day and did not go anywhere to play. Would it not be easy for young Master Feng to see Miss Tang? Feng Yu snapped out of his daze and saw that everyone was staring at his wrist. He hurriedly covered the watch with his sleeve. Everyone looked at each other. It was not like they could take it away from him. Young Master Feng, what do you think of the promotion for all our games? Didn't you say that you wanted Miss Tang to help us promote the game? You even wanted to design a horror game for her. With Miss Tang's understanding of the game, it would definitely be a feast for the eyes of our future users. Feng Yu had been distracted and did not hear about the plan at all. Show me the proposal. Of course, no one dared to say anything. Feng Yu was the one who had led the entire team. He was also in charge of the Feng family's games. However, he was more focused on the development and design of the game. This made people feel that he didn't look like a businessman. That's all. However, we'll find someone else to test the game. After all, the audience for horror games is a minority. Many people don't like it. We don't need her to promote the game. Feng Yu lowered his head and pursed his lips. Although little Yi was good at games, her understanding of the game was not as good as Xiaoguo. Understood. We have prepared 2 other games that are suitable for the general public. As long as we optimize them further, we can start the closed beta. Actually, we are very confident. After all, this is a feast for the game. No one would want to miss it. However, if we have a good host to help us promote the live stream, the experience for the users will be more intuitive. On the day itself, we can even choose 10,000 beta users to play the game with the host. Let's do as you think. It's a good plan. After the meeting, someone teased Feng Yu. Young Master Feng, were you thinking about Miss Tang just now? As she spoke, she couldn't help but glance at Feng Yu's wrist. Miss Tang is such a nice person to have prepared such a fitting gift for you. In the face of her colleagues' envy, Feng Yu felt bitter in her heart. She only said, she's really good. Alright, I won't disturb young Master Feng anymore. Today is young Master Feng's birthday. Your family must have prepared a birthday banquet for you. Her colleague smiled and said, I'm guessing that Miss Tang must be doing her styling or beauty treatment now. She might even be waiting for you downstairs. But to be honest, young Master Feng, you can't just let that girl keep looking for you. You should go and look for Miss Tang occasionally. She used to look for you every day and even spent the whole afternoon with you. She's really patient. This colleague was one of the company's technical backbones, and she was also a woman. Feng Yu's legs were a little numb as she walked out of the company. She subconsciously looked at the spot where Tang Guo liked to stand. Her eyes were a little sore. At this moment, his phone rang. He pressed the answer button and his mother's voice came through. Ah, you, the birthday party is ready. Remember to bring Xiaoguo over. Chapter 744. I haven't seen her in a few days. Has she been busy lately? Did you make Xiaoguo angry? Alright, let's not talk about it anymore. Remember to bring my daughter-in-law home. Before Feng Yu could say anything, Lu Yiyin hung up. He opened the car door and drove toward Tang Guo's house as he dialed a familiar number. Little Yi. Have you gotten off work? Are you coming over today? It's my birthday today. Oh, is it Yu's birthday? I'm sorry. I've been streaming all this time and forgot about such an important day. I'll get off the stream and order a cake for you. What flavor do you like? I'm coming over to pick you up. My family has prepared a birthday party for me. I'll take you to get styled and picked out a dress. Do I still need to get styled? I already look pretty good. Do I still need to pick out a dress? Xia Yi was a little dumbfounded. She had never experienced anything like this before. She came from an ordinary family and only liked to play games. She was different from other girls. When she had pocket money, she would buy snacks and decorations. On the other hand, Gu Nianjia would save money and wait until the weekends to play games at internet cafes. After all, the internet fees would be cheaper and she could even play games for an entire night. It was also because she had played games all night that she had suddenly died. Get off the stream first. I'll be right there. Feng Yu hung up the phone and was a little stunned. Had it not always been his wish to save little Yi's life? Why did he feel a sense of regret now? However, when he thought about how little Yi did not know anything and how he was the one who had done everything, he could not blame her. Even if Xia Yi could not control that perfect body, he had to accept it and protect it from any harm. When he arrived at Tang Guo's house, he opened the door and walked in. When he saw that Xia Yi was still playing games, he could not help but frown. You haven't finished streaming yet? Yes, I have. I heard that there's a new game. Since you weren't here, I played it for a while. You, wait a little longer. This round will be over soon. It'll take at most 20 minutes. Feng Yu looked at the time and saw that Xia Yi was in high spirits, so she sat aside and waited. His gaze never left Xia Yi. They had the same body and the same face, but when Xia Yi was playing the game, she was making threatening gestures and showing annoyed and childish expressions from time to time. These expressions should not have appeared on such an exquisite face. Little Yi, can you put your legs down when you play the game? Feng Yu really couldn't stand the sight of Xia Yi holding her phone and sitting on the chair in her pajamas. She rested her slender legs on the computer table rudely. If she wasn't Xia Yi, he would have been angry. However, he was the one who allowed Xia Yi to have this body. We're at home, and there's no one around. That's why we can relax. Isn't playing games supposed to relax? Xia Yi raised her head in confusion. Soon, she didn't care about Feng Yu anymore. The game had reached a critical point. If she didn't take it seriously, she would definitely lose. Feng Yu turned her head away. Then you play first. This was Xiaoguo's house. Based on Xia Yi's personality, she would probably destroy it if she stayed here for too long. Feng Yu planned to enter Tangguo's room to put away some valuable things. He would keep Xiaoguo's favorite clothes, jewelry, and bags in the room next door that he didn't live in. He would then lock it up. Xiaoguo wouldn't be angry when she returned. Feng Yu was about to go to the other room. However, when he opened the walk-in closet that he thought was empty, he was stunned. Chapter 745. The cloakroom, which was supposed to be empty, was already full. It wasn't Tangguo's clothes, nor were it Tangguo's bags and accessories. All the clothes here were men's clothes. The styles and brands were what he usually wore. Those accessories, ties, and belts seemed to be prepared for him. Feng Yu's eyes suddenly became hot. She stood outside the cloakroom and was speechless for a long time. She couldn't stop the hot tears in her eyes. She was sad, as if her heart was being cut by a knife. It was too painful. You, where are you? I'm done. Hearing Xia Yi's voice, Feng Yu hurriedly closed the door of the cloakroom. When she came out, she also closed the door tightly. Everything in the cloakroom was prepared for him by Xiaoguo. When did she prepare it? Why didn't he know anything about it? What kind of plan did Xiaoguo have for their future? Xiaoguo had said before that he would take him to see her parents. Feng Yu didn't dare to think about it anymore and hurriedly walked out. He took Xia Yi to the hairdresser to get styled and bought her a gown. Finally, he told her not to expose herself in front of his parents. There were a lot of people tonight, so he told her to speak less and keep a smile all the time. If someone said something to her, she could pretend to be sick and get away with it. Xia Yi listened very carefully and said that there was no problem. She was also afraid that she would expose herself. If she exposed herself, she wouldn't have such a good life. Everything seemed to go smoothly at the birthday party. Xia Yi followed Feng Yu and kept a smile all the time. Because she had imitated Tangguo's movements and expressions for a while, and many people were not familiar with her, she indeed passed the test. But Feng Yu's parents still felt that she was a little strange. Xia Yi was still sensible and quickly said that she was a little uncomfortable. Her parents were worried about her, so they asked Feng Yu to send her back early. After Feng Yu sent Xia Yi home, he received a message from his parents, asking him to take good care of Tangguo. They were very satisfied with Tangguo. They also told him that there were not many girls who liked him purely now. They had met many young girls, but none of them were like Tangua, who liked him wholeheartedly. When Feng Yu heard this, he felt even worse. Is that so? His parents also realized that Xiaoguo's love for him was very pure. Ah you, a few days ago, Xiaoguo bought you a lot of clothes and accessories for all 4 seasons. You've been working overtime for the past few days, and I didn't have time to tell you that I put it in the walk-in closet next to yours. Xiaoguo even gave you a set. How do you wear it every day? This child is really meticulous. Mother Feng's face was full of praise. She had never seen such a perfect and capable girl. She was really satisfied. Feng Yu was pushed into the cloakroom stiffly. Seeing that the branded clothes he often wore were all here, he hurriedly sent Mother Feng away and locked himself inside. He squatted in a corner, took out his phone, and opened Tangua's live broadcast. He watched her previous live broadcast videos over and over again, with tears falling on the screen. Tangua looked at Feng Yu silent crying on the phone. She held her chin and clicked her tongue. I didn't expect a man to cry like a flood. He can't stop crying. System, you're the devil. I'm so sad. At this moment, the phone rang. It was Tangua. Feng Yu was stunned for a moment. He picked it up and subconsciously wanted to say, Xiaoguo, but he quickly realized that the person calling him was not Tangua, but Xia Yi. Chapter 746. I left your USB here. I opened it out of curiosity. There are 3 games inside, and they are all horror games. I want to play them. I was interested when I saw the names. You prepared these games for me, right? Actually, I just wanted to inform you. Although I'm not that interested in horror games, it's a live stream. If the audience likes these 3 games, they should be good. Okay, I'm going to try them out. I won't disturb you. Feng Yu didn't even have time to speak before Xia Yi hung up. He frowned. He had prepared these 3 games on the spur of the moment. He had originally planned to let Xia Yi play them. He wanted to play with Xia Yi, so he didn't care about the USB. But Xia Yi opened it directly, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. But soon, he was immersed in sadness again and completely forgot about Xia Yi. He looked at the clothes and accessories in a daze and recalled the good times of the past few months. The more he recalled, the sadder he felt. Tangguo wasn't interested in watching the man's flood. Hearing Xia Yi's words, the 3 games in the USB should be the 3 games mentioned in the plot. These 3 games had a lot to do with the storyline. She decided to follow the storyline. Following the network, she got into Xia Yi's computer skillfully. The game interface was already opened. She squatted aside and waited for the game to load. The first game Xia Yi chose was Zombie Bride. There were various difficult levels. The boss of this game was the Zombie King, and the bride was a human in the game. The player's mission was to successfully save the bride from the zombie town. There were 2 ways to pass the level. First, kill all the zombies and take the bride away. Second, take the bride out of the zombie town when all the zombies and the zombie king weren't paying attention. No matter which method it was, it sounded very difficult. But of course, the game would give the players something to deal with the zombies. It was a variety of charms from Mao Mountain. Some could freeze the zombies, and some could destroy the little zombies. It was said that there was a charm hidden in the zombie town that could destroy the zombie king. Other than the freeze charm and the destroy charm, there were 2 very special charms, the stealth charm and the invisibility charm. If the player could find these 2 charms, there was a high chance that he could secretly take the bride away. But it wasn't easy. When Tangua saw that the game was almost loaded, she controlled her soul to enter the game. When she came back to her senses, she realized that she was wearing a red bridal gown and was sitting in a sedan, being carried in a certain direction. She was stunned. Tongzi, is this the legendary power of the plot? It should be. Tangua smiled. That's quite interesting. She looked around and lifted the curtain of the palanquin. She looked at the darkness around her. Every blade of grass and tree looked very real. It was as if this wasn't a game world, but a real world. She looked in the direction they were heading and vaguely saw some buildings. She understood that it was probably Zombie Town. Now, she was the bride waiting to be married. She touched her face and found that there were still tears. She clicked her tongue and said, "It's so realistic. I'm starting to suspect that this is a small world." However, this was just a game world. It was just that the characters in the game would treat this place as the real world. The palanquin soon arrived at the small town. The bearers carried the palanquin into the small town and put it down. Then, they quickly slipped away as the cold wind blew around them. Chapter 747. Tangua lifted the curtain and saw the coachman and bridesmaids running away quickly, as if there were man-eating things here. She held her chin and waited in the sedan for a while. When she was about to go out, she heard some noise outside. She glanced outside and saw a large group of zombies jumping around the sedan. They lifted the curtain and looked at her, sniffing as if to confirm whether she was a human or not. Finally, she saw satisfaction on the zombie's pale face. She couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. Did they have to be so realistic? She dared to say that from Xia Yi's angle, she couldn't see the subtle expressions of the game characters. Even the characters and scenery in the upcoming holographic online game couldn't be as realistic as her. It was exactly the same as reality. The zombie in front of her seemed to be of a higher level. His body wasn't as stiff as the surrounding zombies, but he was still jumping around. He waved his stiff hand, and Tangua's sedan started to move. Zombies carrying a sedan. I'll be jolted to death. She communicated with the system. The system said weakly, "I don't know. Dear host, stay calm." But what happened soon made them think too much. The zombies carrying the sedan didn't jump around, but directly flew. She could feel that it was very stable. She wasn't afraid of being surrounded by terrifying zombies. She just lifted the curtain and looked at the night sky of the town. The leading zombie suddenly turned around and stared at Tangua strangely. Finally, it seemed to confirm something and turned back with relief. Tangua found that the zombie's behavior was really strange. Not long after, the sedan was put down, and a stiff voice came from outside. "Bride, get off the sedan." Tangua consciously got off the sedan. After traveling through so many worlds, it was the first time she experienced such a situation. She was very curious and didn't worry about her own safety. Tangua walked out of the sedan and saw a big house in front of her. The leading zombie said again, "Go in." Tangua lifted the hem of her wedding dress and went in very obediently, which made the zombie leader feel very strange. It looked at her for a long time and made sure that there was nothing wrong with her before it looked away. The leader of the zombies pushed open the door to a newly decorated room. Tangua walked in, and after a while, the zombies brought her some food. She confirmed that the food was really for humans, so she took a bite without hesitation. The zombie leader stared wide-eyed at Tangua, who was enjoying her food. It was obvious that with its stiff brain, it could not figure out why the bride in front of it was not afraid at all. In the end, he didn't see any problems and had to leave. "It tastes pretty good." Tangua communicated with the system, "It's actually so interesting. I wonder if that zombie king is also interesting. In the storyline, there wasn't much information about the zombie king, and he didn't appear much. In the story, the original owner's situation was different from hers. She appeared in the game and became the bride. The original host was able to control the bride's body by controlling her own brainwaves, so it was fundamentally different. She was very sure that the current body was her body. She had complete control, and the bride was just a game character without a soul. Just as she was thinking, the door was pushed open. She raised her head and looked at the figure who walked in. That's right, he walked in. His body wasn't stiff, and other than his face being a little pale, he didn't look like a zombie. She stopped eating. This old zombie should be the highest level. He could actually walk in, she thought. Chapter 748. Tanghua was still holding a drumstick in her hand. The drumstick had already been bitten, and there was a neat row of teeth marks on it. While she was sizing up the zombie king was also sizing her up. Their eyes met and they just stared at each other without saying a word. In the end, she saw the zombie king smile at her. He even sat beside her and said with interest, "Are all game characters so realistic now?" Tanghua? Before Tanghua could react, the zombie king reached out his hand towards her face and pinched it. At the same time, he clicked his tongue and praised, "What a rich expression. I thought I saw the real person." Tanghua, what's going on? Is this old zombie's character designed to be funny? This zombie bride was actually a horror game with a funny plot. She kept her composure and decided to observe the situation first. This old zombie was indeed a little interesting. She took a bite of the drumstick and continued to observe the other party's reaction. The other party was stunned for a moment, then he sighed with admiration and nostalgia. It seems that the Feng family has produced a powerful character. At this moment, Tanghua felt that things were not as simple as they seemed. Game characters could be emotional and experienced. Even if they were very intelligent, they would never use such an expression and tone to directly talk to their bride about the Feng family. Thinking of her own situation, she had some guesses. Could it be that this old zombie had the brainwaves of a real person, or was it related to the Feng family? Bride, is the drumstick delicious? Perhaps the zombie king was too lonely. He actually sat on the side and started to tease this game character with rich expressions. Do you still want it? Tanghua was speechless. System, ha 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 ha, this is too funny. He was sure that the host was about to do something. Sure enough, after hearing Tanghua's reply, the system program was a little messed up. Tanghua took a bite of the drumstick and chewed slowly. Do you have a lot of drumsticks? My family is poor. I've never eaten chicken drumsticks before. System, he knew this would happen. Yes, I have a lot of chicken legs. The zombie king's interest was piqued. He felt that this bride was very interesting. When he woke up from the game, he tried to think of a way to get out, but it seemed like there was no way. He was trapped in the single-player story game with no internet, and there was no way to communicate with the outside world. He didn't expect to meet such an interesting character. Reflecting the moonlight outside the window, the zombie king's pale face was actually very handsome. He was also wearing a bright red wedding dress. The corners of his lips curled up as if he had found a fun toy. Do you want to eat? Yes. Tanghua nodded obediently. I want to eat drumsticks every day. System, fuck him. The zombie king's smile softened. If he could talk to such an interesting character every time he appeared, it would be very fun. In a standalone horror game like this, he wouldn't be lonely anymore. He was just afraid that such an interesting character design would not appear every time. After all, this could be an accidental trigger of the game character's hidden attribute. If it was like this every time, there would be a day when he would be bored. But now, he was still very interested. The Zombie King pointed at the chicken drumsticks on the table, and said with a charming voice, "Be this king's bride, and you will have chicken drumsticks to eat every day." According to the settings of the game characters, he guessed that even if the bride was not afraid of him, once he asked her to be his bride, she would definitely resist. He really wanted to see what kind of expression she would use to resist. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.